What would you do if you were not afraid? Ask yourself this question, because I asked myself this question and I came up with answers that helped me tremendously. And this episode is going to allow you to increase your faith and reduce your fears. It's going to allow you to become courageous and actually act despite your fears. And because this is what being courageous really is. And I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself that are going to allow you to achieve your goals and not let your fears prevent you from achieving your goals. And at the end, I'll also give you the framework, the HALT framework, HALT, that is going to allow you to reduce or prevent or stop any addiction that you may have, any bad behavior that you are engaging often, less often into it. It's going to allow you to make it pretty easy for you to stop, because when you are depleted of will and you engage in this bad behavior, you're going to allow yourself to make it easy for you to not be in this place and in this moment and not engage in this bad activity. So if this is something that you think will be useful to you, this episode will serve you tremendously, as I think will all the other episodes on this podcast. So if you like any of this, you should subscribe, because if you're new here, my name is Ivaldi Sako. I'm the founder and CEO of origrowth.com, and here I try to help you learn from my mistakes, on my journey of building a great business, developing myself, and becoming better. I try to help you as much as possible learn from my mistakes so that you don't make them, and learn from the things that I learn. And this is funny because this week you're going to see that when we go through things in the midst of things, we don't realize that things are happening for us. And I'm going to tell you about all these things that we talked about to reduce fears and everything. And I'm going to tell you in the sequence in which they happened to me, in which I learned about different things, so that you can see that on the macro, at the end of the week, I realized all the things I did this week were in the perfect sequence for me to learn and to achieve my goals, right? And to actually do the right things. And this is going to be an example for you of how things work for you. And it's going to allow you to maybe put in perspective what you're going through right now. Maybe you're going through some difficulty. Maybe you're afraid of doing something and making a decision. It's going to allow you to, just connect the dots for your life as well. So let's get into it. And if you like this, subscribe. So let's get into it. So the first thing I did this week, first day of the week, Sunday, right? Usually it's Monday for me, but Sunday really started this week for me. And it started by me going to church. I went to church, and by the way, it's going to serve you even if you're not Christian, even if you're not a believer, it's going to serve you. I went to church, and the priest asked us two questions, and these questions were the following: what obstacle is there between me and the Word of God? What obstacle is there in me between me and the Word of God? And how can I liberate myself from these obstacles? How can I clean the path from these obstacles between me and the Word of God? And you can translate that to you, if you're not a believer, into what is standing between me, what in me, so maybe a fear, right? So this is something that is in you. What in me is preventing you, is sitting between me and my goals. And so when he asked this question, I was like, fear. For me, I was like, I know, fear. And it's the case for most people. A lot of times it's just emotions, right? You're scared of something. You're scared of what people may think of you. You're scared of what would happen if you failed. What would, oftentimes it's just what people think of you. Like most of the time, this is the fear, the biggest fear. And after this church, I went to church at 11 a.m. Then after that, I I watched a movie called 90 Minutes in Paradise. And this is a great movie. Don't be, don't trust the bad critics online when you type 90 Minutes in Paradise, what people think about this. They give it like a 2 stars, 2 out of 5 stars reviews, and they say that it's a really bad movie. I'm happy I didn't trust these people. They don't want anyone, to see this movie, because just like any other movie that was canceled or anything like this, they don't want you to have your faith increased. They don't want you to reduce your fears, because if you're not afraid anymore, you will do whatever you have to do. You will be successful. You will do a lot of things. And it's not like it's the best movie, deserved 5 out of 5. No, it's just like, it's a really good movie to watch still. It doesn't deserve a 2 out of 5 and all these critics. Anyway, in this movie, basically, it shows you how much suffering someone can go through. And it gave me perspective on, okay, my problems right now and all of my fears and all of the things I'm going through right now, my problems in my business, all of these are really like small problems compared to what this guy had to go through, right? Like, this guy had like to go through extreme pain, like physical, insane pain, because he was in a very bad accident. And I suggest really you watch the movie. It's going to, like, honestly, I had some tears watching it, especially if you're a believer. It's going to definitely do something to you. If you're not a believer, maybe it will help you believe. And see, because this is a movie that is taken from an actual reality, right? It's a movie based on a true story. So the guy actually died. He had no pulse anymore. It was like this for an hour and 30 minutes. So 90 minutes after he was dead, he was clearly dead. He was in the car. People didn't care about him. He came back to life. How does this happen? Well, I'll let you figure it out with the movie. And then he goes on to extreme suffering, but this is not in vain, because this suffering actually helps him. It helps him just build his story, right? And this story actually was useful to me, right? So this guy suffering like this helped me increase my faith, reduce my fears, and hopefully help you as well. And you see this as just big network effect, right? The priest, remember the question that the priest asked: what is standing between me and the word of God? And maybe your goal. After that, I thought, after watching this movie, I was thinking, okay, I think this would be great to share with this group of people that I met in a travel back in Portugal, right? And I was kind of afraid. I was kind of like, I don't know if I should share that with them. I don't know what they're going to think about me. I don't know how this makes me look like. What if they don't like the movie? And all these things were like kind of like small fears popping into my mind. And these were about to prevent me from sharing the word of God. And they were basically like, this fear was standing between me and the word of God. And so I was like, well, I'm going to just apply what the priest said this morning. I'm just not going to let fear prevent me from sharing the word of God, right? Just because I think some people might judge me on this, I'm not going to allow 60 other people to have the option to watch this movie and have their life changed, just like mine was changed with this movie. Just like I was inspired by this movie, I was not going to let them be inspired just because I was afraid, right? Not worth it. And I was basically letting the enemy, right? The devil, the fears prevent me. Like, it was going to be an obstacle to the word of God. And you can often be either a wall, right? Or like something that prevents opportunities and flow to happen, Or you can be a connector. You can be like something that just, okay, you have something good happen to you, you make something good happen to others, and so more things can happen to you. This is not like a woo-woo thing. It's like just actually like when I had a great thing, I share it, right? Just like if you're watching this podcast and you're listening to this, if it helps you out, don't let your fear of what are people going to think. I'm just sharing this guy, nobody knows him, he's not even that good. I'm afraid of what he may say or think about me if I share this with him. Don't let this fear prevent you from sharing this show, right? I really think like it's not even for me. It's just like I think it's going to be useful to a lot of people to know about all this stuff. And so yeah, I was like, almost like, what? The enemy wants me to not share this. I'm going to share this just because of this. Just because he doesn't want me to share this. Just because I had the fear, I'm going to do that, right? And kind of like take it, like use your ego for you, right? Your ego is oftentimes like preventing you from doing great things because you're thinking about what people are going to think about me and everything, right? But if you switch it and you think, they don't want me to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it anyway, right? So I think it was kind of my thought process when I shared it with him. I was like, whatever happened, like I don't care. Like, is it really going to matter what they're going to tell me? Right? No, don't care. So so I shared it, and people loved it. People were like, oh, thank you for sharing this, and they loved my message, and people were really thankful for it. So I got a positive reinforcement for sharing something and not letting my fears preventing me from achieving my goal, sharing the word of God. And if I had received a negative feedback and people didn't like it, I should have processed the feedback in a positive way for me. So not let this feedback tell me, okay, so I should never do this again because this was a bad experience, because the action was actually good. So, just some bonus thing to think about. Control your feedback, because if you are negatively reinforced to do a positive action, you're not going to do this positive action again. But you can control this feedback and, reframe kind of the story that you tell yourself about this experience to make it a positive experience so that you do the positive action again. So after that, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 days after that, I was listening to a podcast on which Alex Hormozy, I guess you know him, said something on the Modern Wisdom podcast. And he said this phrase. He said, like, one of his lifetime goals is to die with no fears. And so he asked himself often, what would I do if I was not afraid? And this just entered my mind, and I didn't forget it. As soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's true. Because I heard it actually when I was going to the gym and listening to music. Actually, I was not listening to music, but I knew that sometimes I listen to music instead of listening to a podcast while going to the gym. And when I do, sometimes I feel like dancing. Sometimes I feel like I'm kind of jogging toward the gym, and I feel like dancing to the path of music and just having like dancing just like I feel like it. And I don't, because I'm afraid of what people will think of me. I'm just like, it's weird. Nobody does this in the streets, right? Everybody's going to look at me weird, and then I'm going to have a weird image of myself. A lot of problems and fears. And I'm not going to lie to you and say, okay, I started dancing, right? I did not. But this is an example because I think it's, this is kind of the one thing that is not really worth it. I'm going to dance a little bit and just feel a lot weirder about myself. Maybe I'm just still afraid. But, these kind of things like prevent you from doing what you should do. Because I thought, what are people going to think of me? And so I used this sentence, what would I do if I was not afraid, in different contexts. Because after that, I received an email from a guy from my company, and he was asking me if we could bring him a certain type of clients for him. And he said his clients are worth like his services begins at, well, actually, most of our clients usually are like experts, coaches, business coaches, people that have experience and have a lot of knowledge, and entrepreneurs mostly. And we help them get clients, and their clients are worth to them $5,000, sometimes $10,000, and this is the range, right? Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, but this is the range. And this client, this new guy that was like emailed me, he told me if his services begin at $90,000, and so about $100,000 on average. And so immediately I was afraid. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I was like going to write, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do this. I can't do this, just because I was afraid. I was not thinking really, can I do this, just because it was bigger than usual. I was not used to that. I was afraid. I was like, what if it doesn't work? It's something different. Our processes are not catered for this. And I asked myself, what would I do if I was not afraid? And of course, the reason, the answer is just, I would just say, yes, I can, and figure it out. This is what I would do if I was truly not afraid. I would just do that. I would say, yeah, of course, and figure it out. And then I realized, the same services, the same offer could be worth like 10 times higher for some different people. You can just, our offer right now could be worth $5,000 for a client because his clients are worth $5,000, but to this client, it could easily be worth $40,000, right? Because one of his clients is worth $90,000, and so it's a lot more worth it to him. And I was like, maybe I should change my target client and target like higher ticket clients, like people that are really, really bigger in the game. And this scares me. And I didn't decide yet, because we're still like growing and managing the whole thing, even with our current clients. So this feels like a little too fast to grow into this, but I don't have this fear holding me back anymore. I know I'm just going to figure it out. That's it. And so maybe right now you have some opportunities that you're like blocking yourself from just because you're afraid. You think, oh, this is too big for me. Try to think bigger, and do bigger actions. And actually, right before I had this email, I was listening to Ed Mylett, the podcast of Ed Mylett on thinking big. And I was like everything just falls into place, right? I did not realize it on the moment, but then looking back on my week, I realized, wow, life is really happening for you, not to you. Even though I had some bad, I thought the email was just something distracting me. Like it was in my head. I was like, oh, should I say yes? Should I say no? But in fact, the thing, it was actually helping me grow. And so, yeah, this was extremely useful to you. Ask yourself, like, when you hear all of this, what does this mean in your life? What can you take from this? What would you do if you were not afraid? And keep repeat this question actually like with your mouth, like actually say it. What would I do if I was not afraid? So that it enters your subconscious mind, and once you have some options in front of you and you have to decide to make a decision or do something or not do something, you ask yourself, like immediately you think of this question, what would I do if I was not afraid? And then you actually do the right action. So this was really useful to me. And then I also listened to another Ed Mylett podcast. I think maybe it was before that. And this was a podcast with a woman, I forgot the name, but it was a woman that had been in a very, very bad and grave motorcycle accident. And her whole leg was shattered, like completely like gone in pieces. And her leg was dangling, right? Just like not here anymore, just like completely broken and destroyed. And she had tremendous suffering, and right now she uses this story to help people out through their suffering. So this is really like kind of a similar thing than in the movie you watch this guy go through like just insane pain. It makes you feel like, what am I complaining about? What am I, like, all these problems, I'm so grateful to have all these problems right now in front of me and not having those problems, not having this kind of suffering. And this woman is kind of the same thing. She's gone through an extreme, like, bad accident and going through extreme suffering. And at one point, and this makes you feel, of course, like, it makes you, like, you know, compare things to, whoa, compared to that, this is not really a big deal. But also, at one point, to deal with this excruciating pain, even recently, she got at one point addicted to alcohol to soothe the pain, right? To just forget about this. And she felt like she had a positive reinforcement. Okay, she drinks, she feels better for a moment, and then the pain comes back and she needs to drink again. And then it was a feedback loop, and then she became an alcoholic. Like, completely, like, she was addicted fully. And at one point she tells you the story where she's in a hotel room and she had stopped drinking for a while and she's been successful at it. And then in a hotel room she was tired, she was hungry, and she was in pain, and she was alone in the hotel room. And then she sees I don't remember what this is called. Right? The little fridge where there's a lot of cocktails and alcohol, right, in the hotel room, right? And then she just notices it right now, and she opens it, and then she sees a lot of alcohol, right? A lot of it. And then it scared her. She was like, oh, I'm going to get back into this. So she closed the open bar, right? This is like the fridge with like plenty of alcohol. She closed it. She went downstairs. She got a full pizza. She got full, and she was with people around her. And then she didn't fall into the addiction again. And she tells you about this. I should find the name. Maybe I'll put the name of this woman in the description if I find it. And then she came up, looking back on this, she came up with a formula, with a framework called the HALT framework, HALT. And this helps you reduce or prevent any addiction, or prevent yourself from getting back into any addiction. And this is what it means. This is what she said, never get too HALT. Never get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, and too tired. Because when you get too hungry, you're going to go for this donut. Oh man, I just dream of donuts. It's insane. You're going to go again for it, right? When you... Has it been recording? My phone was like, there was an alarm on it. Anyway, so never get too hungry, never get too angry, because when you get too angry, you make stupid decisions. And never get too lonely, because when you're lonely, you don't have accountability and you're going to make the wrong choices. And never get too tired, because then if you get too tired at one point and you're alone, you're going to not have the will to resist the urge of getting back into this addiction, right? Never get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. And so be social, like constantly, like just be around people. It's better to be around people than be alone and be tired and be hungry. If you're going to be angry, be around people. I think it's still going to be useful to not let this anger just completely like shatter your life. And if you're hungry, be around other people, right? Because this is like around people, like group of people are make you accountable, like make you not do too much stupid things, right? At least less, right? And it prevents you from feeling lonely, because when you feel lonely, you're going to engage in bad activity, just make you forget and make you feel like you're not as lonely anymore. And if you get too tired, be around other people. Do not let yourself succumb, unless, of course, these people are bad influences, right? If you're addicted to alcohol and you are tired and you hang out with people that are alcoholics and they drink alcohol in front of you, it's not gonna be good, right? So yeah, this was the very useful framework that I got. Remember, ask yourself, what would you do if you were not afraid? What would I do if I was not afraid? What is preventing me from achieving my goals in me? What is in me preventing me from achieving my goals, from sharing the word of God, right? What is in me preventing me from standing between me and the word of God, between me and my goals? Ask yourself these questions, try to find the answers, look for them, and I believe this episode will have served you tremendously if you do. And use the HALT framework. Never get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Hope this served you. If it did, please share it with someone that you think it might help as well. Don't let your fear stop you from doing this, and I'll let you maybe I'll see you in another episode, right?